Hey everybody, welcome to Cincinnati Real Producers Podcast, powered by Next Door Photos. I'm Patrick Braddock, owner and publisher of Cincinnati Real Producers.
And I'm Daniel Ziegler, owner of Next Door Photos. Every week, we're getting to know Cincinnati's top realtors.
Our goal is to elevate and inspire the real estate community throughout greater Cincinnati.
Today we have Alex Wagner, team lead of the Wagner Way, brokered by Keller Williams 7 Hills. Alex entered the industry in 2016 as an investor, but became a licensed real estate agent in 2021. His career sales volume is over $40 million, and last year alone, the Wagner Way did over $16 million in volume. During Alex's first year in real estate, he managed to earn Circle of Excellence as an individual. The next year, he earned Circle of Excellence at the team level. He has also earned Ohio Realtors President's Sales Club. Welcome to the show, Alex Wagner.
Daniel, Patrick, thank you for having
Thanks
us.
for coming,
How you guys
man.
doing?
It's awesome.
Great. It's good to have you, man.
Man.
Thank you.
So, fresh off vacation like myself?
Yeah, it's we're back from vacation, but mentally and physically we're still struggling.
Man, I feel that on a spiritual level. It has been rough. You know, on this podcast, we love to kind of take it back. We're talking to realtors who all love to talk real estate, and we do too. But let's take it back before that. So you got into real estate as an investor back in 2016. But what were you up to before that?
Before I really got my hands wet in real estate, I was in law enforcement for a solid year, a little bit over a year.
Nice.
I loved every aspect of it, the sense of reward of helping someone.
Mm-hmm.
But I ultimately wanted to become full-time SWAT in either Dallas or Columbus were the two spots I had in mind. The SWAT guys were basically saying that I would need at least 5 years of experience before getting to even try out, so to speak. And I was like, well, I do love law enforcement, but I don't know if I have 5 years in me to get to where I really wanted to be. And that's when I started getting into the real estate. My dad bought a couple properties to make investments and rent out, and I slowly but surely got more involved with him, and slowly but surely got less involved with law enforcement. So it's, the day it kind of clicked was when we were going through a project for one of his condos, and he was just, there's chaos in his opinion. But in my eyes, I'm like, I can see the kitchen transitioning, and if we make this change or that adjustment, what's this going to look like? And it's very exciting for me. It came naturally to me, and I think that's when it kind of clicked. Like, hey, law enforcement, I love you, but I got a different passion burning inside me, so time to move forward on that.
Yeah.
Man. That's awesome, because not a lot of people have that insight or that vision, from an investor standpoint to make that work. And I know I don't. I've looked at it before, like, what is going on in this house? Like, I have no idea. Like, can you see the vision? I'm like, no, I can't see any of that vision. So like, for you to have that, man, I'm sure your dad liked that too. Being able to reassure him that the investments are going well.
Exactly, he definitely did. I was at the very beginning on the second property. Let's just say that. I was involved right away.
That's awesome.
I do love, I'm like you. I think I have a little bit of that eye, probably not as much as you do, it sounds like, but being able to visualize something before it's even remotely close to what you think it's going to look like, I think that is a really cool skill to have. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that got you going into real estate.
Got me fired up. Yeah, it did.
So let's see. So you were helping your dad. So then what was the next natural step for you after that?
Unfortunately, my father ended up passed away in May of 2016. So when that's not something we want to dive into.
No, sorry to hear that, man.
Once he passed away, it kind of again just created more of a fuel to the fire per se to keep going with real estate. And in 2017, on the exact date, I started my own company flipping houses, and basically continued his legacy that way. And I met Tony Van Johnson. I think you're familiar with Tony. He's a great agent, and he helped me for several years locating different properties, helping me manage some of these flips per se. And he kept chiming in a couple different times throughout the years, like, why don't you get your license? like, I don't know, just let's focus on the flips, the investments. Let's maybe license down the road. He kept saying, you know a lot. You're passionate about this. You're great at communicating. You can visually see it all. Just you'd be doing yourself a service to get your license, and also then help others with what you're able to do. So long story short, 2021, I got my license. I joined Tony Van Johnson's team. He was a great mentor. He helped me with a lot, and I quickly became so busy with actual, realtor work, real estate agent work, rather than my own personal investments, flips. So I actually have not flipped a property since 2021.
Wow.
So
do you miss it?
I do, but I don't. So I do miss it because I do love it, but at the same time, I feel like I have enough projects with clients going on that it's like I'm not completely out of it. So
Sure,
I'm still involved
a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm still involved a little bit, and obviously I don't have the risk that comes with that side of it. So.
Yeah, best of both.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, very cool. All right, so now you're on Tony's team and working there. Let's just kind of keep going down the journey here. What kind of happened next for you?
My business kept growing, and I had a conversation with Tony. Hey, I kind of want to go on my own here, see if I sink or swim. He's very supportive of it. To this day we actually talk at least weekly.
That's great.
Yeah. So I went off on my own. Went to Coldwell Banker, and my business really just started blowing up. And it got to the point where I realized that I would need some help, and B, I also enjoyed working with other people. So that's when the Wagner Way was created. Started the team last year, and quite honestly, we've been doubling business since then. It's been a great experience, and everything's coming naturally. I learned for the team aspect, anyways. What kind of culture or atmosphere I wanted, and I make sure that I stick with that with those that I do select to come on the team, and because of that, we work so well together. It's not business, it's not work. It's almost like our own little family, our own little friend group per se, and it's been a blessing so far. So
love that. So I think going from law enforcement into flips, there's probably a certain amount of experience that you've gained along the way, and I'm definitely in the flipping world. I can see how you're helping your clients and have that expertise to offer. Do you think there's anything that you kind of picked up in law enforcement that has helped you in your real estate career? And maybe there's not, but I'm just kind of curious how that translated and what that transition was like for you.
Absolutely. I think having situations be brought up to me, within law enforcement, and knowing how to handle them, and how to communicate properly with individuals and or families, and assess problems. And there's a lot that correlates with one another. So having that communication skill and the people skill per se went hand in hand with real estate. It just has been a huge blessing again, because I've already had that experience and just a slightly different work per se.
Sure.
Right.
Having that compassion, and being able to read your clients just like you would a situation in law enforcement. And I think what people say is like 90% of the job in law enforcement is boring. 10% of it is truly exhilarating. But the boring stuff is really where you make the change, where you help people. And, will there be like glorified social worker type of thing or, something like that. But from a real estate perspective, it seems like there's a lot of transferable qualities, as far as patience and, communication and, all of that lead into a successful agent as well, so.
Absolutely.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. What do you think your secret sauce is as an agent?
Oh man, I think my secret sauce is the Wagner Way itself.
Yeah.
We just have such a strong atmosphere as a group, and we all work very similar. And from the moment we have a conversation with the client of just meeting them or asking simple questions, all the way to the closing table, we're very involved. We make sure our T's are crossed, our I's are dotted. We're very efficient, very effective, and as you probably saw in some of the social media posts, we always deliver, as I like to say. So we always deliver for our clients. So the secret sauce is realistically, I wouldn't say one particular thing, but definitely the Wagner Way as a whole. I think it's speaks volumes for what it is.
It's great culture.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
It's awesome.
No, that is fantastic. And we kind of skipped over this, and this is my fault because I didn't ask you. But so you've got a family, you've got a daughter, is that right?
I do. She just turned 2 recently. I tell you what, the terrible twos is no joke.
You're talking to two guys who know.
Yeah. I'm in the middle of it right now too, so don't worry about it.
We had a lovely little episode right before I came here, so it's funny you guys, you brought that up. And whenever I talk to people about it, I'll kind of, let them know, I know what you're saying. It finally happened. They kind of just give me a grin. I'm like, what's the grin for? Oh my God! All my buddies like, buddy, it just begun. You're thinking you understand our pain and what's going on, but you have no idea just yet. I'm like, thanks, guys. That's great.
This too shall pass. That's what they all say, right? So, man, it's definitely an experience. It's and it's so weird because everybody's different. Like somebody's terrible twos become terrible threes, and some people, like my kids, all started at 1.5 years. And it was weird because it started early, and then you're hitting it right on the nail, with her turning 2.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know, I kind of look at it as really cool to see because they're growing, and they're just exploring their personality and everything like that. So it's kind of like, they're losing their mind, but I'm like, this is great. Like this is kind of fun to watch, like I like to see the wheels turning in their heads, so
it is beautiful. And then also during that process, you start seeing more and more of yourself. So when you kind of want to get mad or upset, like, well, that's me to a T. So that's
the Wagner Way. There it is.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. Awesome. So what you guys like to do for fun?
The aquarium, the zoo. We actually have. We live out in Ross on 5 acres, and our neighbors have cattle. So her favorite thing is to go see the moo-moos. That's awesome. A repeat, which might not be a big deal, but then again, if you live in the suburbs or something like that, then typically you'd have to go to a farm or something. So for our fun, obviously family time is key because I'm very busy, so there's not a lot of family time to be had. So anything that involves the family, and even if that's a sit down dinner or playing with the moo-moos, or we just recently got her like a little toddler swing set. She is obsessed with the slide.
That's awesome.
It's outside. Can we go to the slide? I'm like, here we go. We're going to be here for hours.
Yep.
So honestly, fun for us is anything together because again, we just don't get a whole lot of time together. So
sure.
And then obviously, we talked about this earlier, Florida.
Yeah.
We go to Florida quite often. So we just got back a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. We go again here in July. And shortly after that, we're going to plan her first Disney trip.
Nice.
Oh, man.
Excited for that one.
That'll be awesome.
That is fun. We're planning a trip for next year right now, too.
It's magical.
Yep.
Save up.
Yes.
Sell some houses, my friend. Sell some houses. Oh.
Too funny.
So, kind of refocusing back on the real estate side. Obviously, we love to hear about the family. What are you thinking about, like the next 5 years, maybe the next 3 years with the Wagner Way, the team that the group that you're forming, is growing pretty fast. You started 1 year ago, and you've had so many additions to it as well as changing brokerages again, in a way to help facilitate that growth, I would assume, because Peter Schreier has mastered that as well. So, what do you kind of see or envision the Wagner Way in the next few years?
Great question. I honestly didn't think we'd be where we are today, at least this quickly. So
that's awesome.
The plan is obviously to keep growing. As I always say, and we had this conversation at one point in time before too, is sky is the limit.
Yeah.
So we did recently transfer to Keller Williams 7 Hills Realty, and I did create a partnership with Peter Schreier and TCG. And the reason for that is obviously growth is projected for the next few years. And I'd like to continue to build and grow. And what better way than to do it within a partnership with someone who has already done that, who's been there, who has made the mistakes, has found the solutions. And we're only 2 months in, and I'm already, I'm so excited for what the future might look like. I would obviously like to eventually become, a Peter Schreier like team, or the Euler Hines, or big name teams that you hear in the tri-state quite often. whether that's going to happen 3 years or if that's going to happen in 5 years, there's no really saying. But I do know that the relationship that I have with Peter has really been helping out. There'll be times there'll be a small 30-second phone call where I'll end with like, "Is that it?" Well, that's it. All right. But small stuff like that leads me to believe and feel pretty confident in the projection of the team.
Yeah.
I think we're going to continue to double our production. It sounds crazy, but we have been doing that year after year. Even it's been only 3.5 years or so now. And I know Peter feels confident in that as well. We were in the middle of a class and kind of going over numbers and transactions and as part of the group discussion. And I had mentioned wanting to hit 100 transactions.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of smiled and he said, "I think you're shooting yourself low. I think 120, 125 is going to be the next goal." So having a partnership like that, I'm very confident that, the growth for the Wagner Way is going to continue to be pretty steady, and be looking for new agents soon.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
I love that. And he's just so consistent in his approach to his business that, like the advice that he has and the education that he provides, not just through, himself, because he's seen everything over the 20 some years he's been doing it, but like, I have a lot of respect for Peter in the manner that, he's wanting to help anybody, whether it be a Keller Williams agent or a Coldwell Banker agent, not necessarily as a recruitment tool, but as a way to help people grow and help the culture that is the Cincinnati real estate market.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you recognize that and dove in, kind of head first, it speaks volumes to where you want your business to be, so that's awesome.
And I can chime in on that too. Peter and I joke about this as well. It was 11 and a half months of us kind of having like a mentorship where, him being my mentor per se before I made that switch. So to make a note on it, I was with Coldwell Banker when he was helping, and he was not recruiting or, pushing the envelope whatsoever.
Yeah.
It was simply me looking for growth and asking several questions that I was, curious about, and just out of, who he is, happy to answer, happy to help.
Yeah.
And, he has been through several down markets, to put it nicely.
Yeah.
And even during those markets, he still grew. So who better to answer those questions that I have than, Peter himself.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of down markets, I think too, like it speaks volumes to your growth considering where the market is today. And it's maybe not horribly down or whatever, like we might look at historically, but it's challenging. It's very challenging. And for you to be doubling your business, as you said, every year, that's pretty impressive.
It is. And I think, a lot of it goes to networking with certain people and growing the team and making the changes as needed. A lot of people, they'll feel the stress or they'll feel the market shifting, and they might kind of back down a little bit, or if they're lead generating, maybe they'll kind of pause that, and they get in their head too much, as I would say.
Yeah.
I think the down market is great because it's the perfect time to capture as much market share as you can.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when things kind of level out a little bit better, you can be sitting pretty well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a great mentality.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would love to ask some advice, maybe for some new agents or just other agents in the business. But before we do, we always like to thank Back to Back Ministries for letting us use this awesome podcast studio. Back to Back Ministries is a global nonprofit orphan care organization with their sights set on providing care for today and hope for every tomorrow. From Cincinnati, Ohio to Hyderabad, India, staff teams around the world are stepping into hard stories and choosing to stay. To learn more about the work Back to Back does, how you can get involved, and why a global team won't stop until every child is known and loved, you can visit backtoback.org today. But with that said, Alex, we are curious what kind of advice you might offer, let's say to a newer agent who's kind of getting into the business.
To a newer agent, there's a couple things that I would kind of touch base on. One of which is commitment. If you're going to be a newer agent, especially in this market, I think you should be committed to being an agent. Obviously, some of us have different situations, so it might be part-time. But if you're looking to become best of the best, or a rising star, then commitment is number one. when you get in a couple weeks or a month of maybe some slow business, see it through. Don't sit there and think that this is it's already falling apart. Real estate is a long game, as you guys are aware. It's not like you get your license and all of a sudden, hey, here come all the clients. Commit to it, stick with it, work through the downtimes. It does get better. It will get better. Another bit of advice would be networking. Too many new agents, in my opinion, anyways, and from my experience, because they're newer, they don't. I guess they don't know how to approach, or maybe they're intimidated or too scared to approach other agents. Don't be. We're all here to help you as well. It's it's an awesome industry where that's how we work together. Essentially, is by helping one another, and by networking with the other agents, you'll slowly but surely learn how they handle listings or how they handle buyers. You learn their playbook essentially, and the more agents you kind of network with and learn their routine, their processes, the better off you'll be, because you can take pieces from each one of those and kind of combine it to make your own formula. And I think that is very important, rather than trying to copy a certain style or being too hesitant. Reach out to other agents, talk to them, buy them a coffee, get lunch with them, whatever it might be. It's I think long term it'll not only help your business because you'll learn a thing or two, but now you just made a friend in the industry.
Right.
And that who knows what doors that'll lead to.
Right.
So advice would be A, commitment, and B, networking. Get yourself out there, talk to people, open up, and even to this day, I'm sitting in this chair. It's my third full year doing very well in real estate, and I'm still talking to a lot of agents just to become friends, just to learn how they're navigating this market. I don't think there's ever a certain point where you stop networking.
Right.
Peter Schreier, for example, I see him networking all the time. That's something to keep in mind as a new agent, that you're allowed to, you're expected to, it's okay to reach out and talk. And the last piece of advice I'll give a new agent is, if you are struggling, rather than giving up your license, look into joining some teams. My success started from a team. You get the additional support, the mentorship, tools, organization, and even leads if you pick the proper team.
Right.
Like my guys, for example, they get between 50 to 70 leads a month.
Wow.
Right now, we're only getting to about 40 to 60% of those because we are looking to grow. But my point is, there are teams out there that beyond that support, the education, the experience they can provide you, they can also provide you with some business to help you get your own business up and moving. So the answer is never to just give up on your license and, hey, this isn't meant for me, wasn't meant for me. There's always an alternative, and maybe looking to join a team would be one of those.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting. Like, what kind of qualities would you look for in a newer agent if you were to bring them onto your team?
So number one for us is obviously being a good fit for the rest of the team. So we want you to have the same energy, in our atmosphere. We do have a certain culture that we like to hold, and I think that's why we all work so well with one another. But beyond that, something I look for is someone who can communicate, day and night. Someone who's hungry, who can work very hard, and even when they're tired, they're still want to, go. So work ethic, communication, and obviously having the right personality to be a team player and be within a role within a team. So I'd say those are the most important things that I would look for. As far as the experience per se, we can teach that. We can show you those ropes. We have enough into play where the experience isn't necessarily the important part. It's more of again, being a good fit, communication, and having the work ethic necessary.
Man, that's awesome.
Love that. Well, cool. Well, I think some other advice that I would be curious to hear from you would be advice for buyers and sellers. So you're working with lots of those these days, and it is a challenging market, as we said.
It
so
is.
Yeah.
what kind of advice would you offer to buyers and sellers out there right now?
The most important thing, obviously, is picking the right agent. We see a lot of sellers, per se, potentially hire on a cousin or a family member, someone who just got their license. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, going back to it now, if they were on a team, it would make sense because they get the team support.
Yeah.
But for a seller, obviously pick someone who has the experience, has the drive. They can communicate with you throughout the entire process. They can answer all of your questions right off the bat. And ultimately someone who's going to be aggressive and knows the market or knows how to be a solid agent in this market. And what I mean by this, markets change, they adjust. When they change and they adjust, the agent has to adjust their processes, the way they go about certain offers or listings, and there's a big formula to it. So obviously, as a seller, you want to select an agent who has that going for him or her. On the buy side, let's just get it out there: pre-approval. I mean, in this market, we don't have several days to go and get your pre-approval. So on the buy side, get your pre-approval as soon as you possibly can. Now, those are good for typically, in most cases, up to 90 days. So by doing that now, even if you have to pump the brake for a week or two or whatever that looks like, you have plenty of time now that pre-approval is done. And if you come across the right property, you're ready to rock and roll. You don't have to call the bank or the loan officer and go through all the taxes and other documents that they need.
Right.
So for a buyer, that's number one. Make sure you're pre-approved. You hear that time and time again. That's no joke, especially in this market. That's necessary.
Yeah.
Another bit of advice for a buyer's agent is, again, finding a team or an agent that can be available for you. Mm-hmm. If someone is so busy that they're pushing off to a day, 2 or 3 days down the road, that property is most likely going to be pending by the time you get back to it, especially in this market. So definitely someone who has availability, and if they don't, have a team like I do, for example, and by having a team, if Cyrus, for example, is too busy, then he can connect with me or connect with Jess. Or, we all help each other out. And last but not least, kind of like I said with the sell side too, but someone who is aggressive or confident in their offers. Because if negotiations get brought up, you don't want an agent who's just going to cave essentially, or hey, they said this, so this is what it is. Right. You're going to want an agent who is going to look at what a counteroffer might be and look at all the other options. It's never just what it is on the paper. There's always alternatives. Have a buyer's agent that's willing to call the listing agent and communicate what exactly is it your seller's looking for, and just try to get someone who's a little bit more proactive rather than reactive. That's number one for buyer's agent side. So
that's awesome. That's really good advice. Awesome.
Very cool.
Man, this has been really fun.
Yeah. Super knowledgeable, man, for only being in the industry for a few years. Obviously, you've been investing for more, but like actively licensed real estate agent for three or 4 years. Man, the sky is truly the limit. It's exciting to see where you're going to go. And I'm excited to be able to watch it too. So thank you for being a part of the podcast, man. Thank you for letting us share your story a little bit, and continued success, my friend.
Yeah.
My pleasure. And again, thank you.
Absolutely.
Greatly appreciate it. Do this again.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Right.
Thanks for listening to the Cincinnati Real Producers Podcast, powered by Nextdoor Photos. We do this every week, so be sure to subscribe so you can follow along. If you liked our conversation, leave us a review. We'd love to hear your thoughts.